Hello guys, welcome back to another Division 2 video. So today we're going to be breaking down 3 S-tier tank DPS builds for Darkzone PvP, okay? Each build on this list is carefully designed to provide you with high survivability and weapon damage. And so we achieve this by using some of the best gear pieces, talents, and weapon specialization for each setup. So the first build on this list is a classic high-end meta build with the new Lexington assault rifle. This build takes advantage of the catharsis mask, which is one of the most viable exotic gear pieces in the Division 2. The catharsis mask helps add an insane amount of overall survivability while boosting weapon damage as well. And having the named Matador backpack helps add even more survivability with the 23% bonus armor that stacks up to 3 times for 5 seconds. So this build has great survivability and high weapon damage. The next build on this list is a tank striker DPS build that absolutely shreds players. The main weapon on this is the Chatterbox, which has a very similar RPM to the Ouroboros exotic SMG. The Chatterbox is a decent weapon, but when it's used in combination with the striker's battle gear set, this weapon turns into a demon of destruction. The RPM increase that you get from the striker's gamble talent increases the RPM significantly. This build utilizes one of the best 2 talents that synergize extremely well together, creating a powerhouse DPS build that not only has amazing survivability, but also absolutely shreds anything or anyone in its path. Last but not least, this third build is a spotter tank DPS build using the new Lexington high-end assault rifle. This is probably the best AR in the game right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's the best weapon in the game as of now. That's how good this weapon is. And just real quick before we get started here, I'll be showing some great alternative setups for you guys later in the video. So for any of you who may not have some of the gear pieces to set these builds up, stick around for that if you're interested. So guys, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, this first build is nothing new. It's a classic high-end meta build, but as you guys know, I'm only going to give you the best builds out there. So this is a great setup. The catharsis mask combined with the Matador backpack helps increase your overall survivability, so this gives you an advantage if you're outnumbered, right? Which also makes it a viable build for solo players. So although I'm in a group in this gameplay footage, this is still a great build to run solo. And I'll show you why this build is so powerful the way it's set up. Because having 2 million armor and hitting players for up to 140k per shot is wild, right? So for the vest, the named Bellstone Armory piece, Everyday Carrier, is extremely effective. Like you can pop armor kits for the rest of your life with this vest. It's crazy. So using an armor kit has a 75% chance of not consuming the armor kit. So in other words, you have a 75% chance of getting your armor kit back once you use it. This also applies to instant healing. So for this setup, I'm wearing 2 pieces of the Walker Harris brand set for the 5% weapon damage and damage to armor, which helps increase overall damage. Then 1 piece Cheska for the 8% critical hit chance, Picaro's holster for the 10% increased weapon damage, and the catharsis mask. Now for the backpack, this is a named Matador backpack, which comes with the perfect adrenaline rush talent. This backpack may be a bit tricky to get if you're a beginner, but you can always use a regular Walker Harris bag or a Cheska bag and roll Adrenaline Rush on it. So Perfect Adrenaline Rush will grant you 23% bonus armor for 5 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So that's about 69% bonus armor at full stacks when you're within 10 meters of up to 3 targets. And get this, the cooldown is only 5 seconds, right? So this is a really effective talent to use for PvP, especially when fighting multiple players. Now for the Catharsis Mask, the talent Vicious Cycle will increase your weapon damage by 1.5% per stack by taking damage. This caps at 30, so at full stacks, that's about 45% increased weapon damage. However, taking damage at full stacks will not only reset this progress, but it will also remove all status effects you may have applied to you, while releasing a healing cloud that restores 5% of your max armor for a duration of 10 seconds. Alright, so for the attributes on the gear pieces, critical hit damage and chance on every piece except for the Picaro's holster, and obviously the mask, right? Oh wait, well just critical hit damage on the holster, and actually on the mask, I have an incoming repair mod to help increase the heals from the healing cloud. And for the primary weapon, the Lexington high-end assault rifle with the talent Optimist. Optimist works really well in PvP and will increase your weapon damage by 3.5% for every 10% ammo missing from the magazine. This weapon was actually rewarded to veteran players recently, but if you don't have it, then you can also try the Shield Splinterer or the St. Elmo's engine as an alternative. For the secondary weapon, I'm using the military M870 shotgun with the talent Brazen, but you can go with an SMG or whatever you prefer as a secondary. For the stats, 52% critical hit chance and about 138% critical hit damage. Now for the skills, I'm using the Defender Drone as my primary and of course my personal favorite, the Decoy. The Defender Drone is great for PvP because it will help block some incoming damage, making you feel a lot more tankier to enemy players, so I highly recommend using it as your primary. So here are the mods for the Defender Drone: 7.2% deflect duration, 7.6% health, and 5% damage reduction. And for the Decoy, 7.5% health and duration. Now for the weapon specialization, I highly recommend running Firewall for the extracellular matrix mesh, because this will give you 200% armor and health recovery upon using an armor kit. Okay, so this next build is a must-have in your loadout, especially for Darkzone PvP or PvP in general. This is a 4-piece striker setup with the Matador backpack and the Intimidate vest talent. With the Chatterbox, this build is absolutely insane. This may actually be the best striker setup for PvP. It has great survivability since I'm running it with all blue, which I think isn't a bad idea considering the huge weapon damage increase you get from the Intimidate vest talent. I think that every player should have at least one good striker loadout saved, because after all, it's easily the strongest gear set in the game, right? So this is a 4-piece striker setup with the Matador backpack. And for the vest, I'm using a Grupo vest with Intimidate. But ideally, you want a Sokolov vest instead because Sokolov will give you a 10% SMG damage increase. Striker also gives you a nice 15% weapon handling and rate of fire for having 3 pieces, and 4 pieces will, of course, give you the Striker's Gamble talent. So with this talent, weapon hits will increase your weapon damage by 65% per stack. 0.65%, sorry. Damn, imagine, that would be crazy. And this caps at 100, so you'll basically have 65% weapon damage at full stacks. And with the Chatterbox, the talent Incessant Chatter will increase your rate of fire even further by 25% when you reload while in combat. So this weapon is pretty incredible to say the least. A good alternative for the Chatterbox is the Ouroboros if you have it, or any of the vectors including the named vector. The Dark Winter will work fine. Now for the attributes on the gear pieces. For the mask and gloves, critical hit damage, and for the holster and knee pads, critical hit chance. And for the mods, I have critical hit damage on the mask, vest, and backpack. You won't need that much critical hit chance because you get some critical hit chance as the second attribute on the weapon, and 15% critical hit chance from one of the attachments. And for the stats, 60% critical hit chance and 157% critical hit damage. For the skills, the Defender Drone and Decoy, but feel free to use whatever suits you better. And for the weapon specialization, Firewall for the 200% armor and health recovery. Firewall works great in PvP. Okay guys, this last build is fairly decent. So this is a spotter tank build with armor regen. This build has the most survivability out of the 3, and the damage isn't bad at all. So this build uses the perfect spotter talent in combo with the flatline talent to deliver a nice hybrid tank DPS build with great damage and amazing survivability. This is a really fun build to use, and the armor regen is nice. The downside, however, is that some of the pieces may be tricky to get, but I'll show a great alternative, so no worries. Most of the damage is coming from the flatline talent on the Lexington assault rifle, which already has a high base damage, mind you, and the perfect spotter talent further increases amplified weapon damage up to 35%. So we have 2 pieces of the Walker Harris brand set for the 5% weapon damage and damage to armor bonus, and the Catharsis mask for the increase in overall survivability and weapon damage thanks to the talent Vicious Cycle, which is a really nice addition. And for the holster, 1-piece Bellstone for the 1% armor regen brand set bonus. Now for the knee pads, I'm wearing the Emperor's Guard. This named high-end gear piece comes with a nice 1% armor regen attribute. But these knee pads can be tricky to get, especially getting it to drop for you, rolled with critical hit chance or damage, because since this is a skill-based brand set, it will only drop with a skill tier. So that means you'll have to get a drop with critical hit chance or damage already rolled onto it. But again, I'll show you an alternative set in a moment, so no worries. But for the vest, I'm using the Name Closer vest, which grants a 5% total armor bonus, thanks to the Uzina brand set. Also, this vest comes with the perfect spotter talent, which amps total weapon and skill damage by 20%. This is nice and adds a really big increase in total weapon damage. Now for the primary weapon, I have the talent flatline rolled on the Lexington. Flatline increases total weapon damage even more by 15% to pulsed enemies. Oh, and I forgot to mention that with spotter as well, you get that damage increase to pulsed enemies. And this is the reason why I'm running this build with the technician weapon specialization, for the linked laser pointer attachment. So for those who didn't know, this weapon attachment goes on the underbarrel attachment on long rail weapons, allowing you to pulse an enemy simply by aiming at them. And this will of course proc the spotter and flatline talent, ultimately increasing your weapon damage by a total of 35%. So these are the weapon mods I'm running for the Lexington, and for the secondary weapon, I'm using the M870 shotgun with flatline. This is the custom version, so it hits pretty hard, and for the skills, I'm using the booster hive and decoy. And if you're wondering why I'm using the booster hive, well, I like to use this when I'm with a group because it helps the team by boosting weapon handling and removing status effects, which is all too common in PvP. But feel free to go with whatever skill you prefer. For the attributes on the gear pieces, critical hit damage and chance rolled on everything except for the mask and knee pads. With an incoming repair mod on the mask, a critical hit chance mod on the backpack, and a critical hit damage mod on the vest, and critical hit chance on the knee pads. And for the stats, 51% critical hit chance and 113% critical hit damage, and about 45,000 armor regeneration. Okay guys, so I'm gonna show you some great alternatives, but if you need more time, just pause the video. Here's an alt setup for anyone who might not have the Emperor's Guard knee pads or catharsis mask. So again, 2-piece Walker Harris for the 5% weapon damage and damage to armor, 1-piece Grupo for the extra 13% critical hit damage, and a Fenris Group AB knee pads for the 10% increased assault rifle damage. And for the stats, 56% critical hit chance and 164% critical hit damage. So this setup will work great as well, okay? And here is a great striker build alternative. Okay. So the Unbreakable talent on the Sokolov vest is a nice replacement for the Intimidate talent, okay? You're gonna lose a bit of damage, but the extra survivability will make up for it, right? So you'll have decent survivability, at least. And finally, here is a great alt setup for the classic meta build. Now, just keep in mind that these aren't the only alternative setups, obviously, right? But hopefully these builds gave you guys an idea at least. So there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've gotten some value from this video. Don't forget to leave a like, and if you're new, welcome. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back. And just a quick announcement, I've gotten so many requests to make a character creation video. I know some of you guys really want to see my character details, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. Also, if any of you are interested in joining the Sword Gaming Discord server, please don't hesitate because you're more than welcome. The link will be in the description, and you can also check out the banner on the channel page. Good luck farming, happy hunting, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them for me in the comment section. And like always, keep it cool, keep it classy, and see you in the next video. Peace out.